Chapter 27. Hazel. Hazel liked the great outdoors, but climbing a 200-foot cliff on a stairway without rails, with a bad-tempered weasel on her shoulder, not so much. Especially when she could have ridden Arya into the top in a matter of seconds. Jason walked behind her so he could catch her if she fell. Hazel appreciated that, but it didn't make the sheer drop any less scary. She glanced to her right, which was a mistake. Her foot almost slipped, sending a spray of gravel over the edge. Gale squeaked in alarm. "You all right?" Jason asked. "Yeah." Hazel's heart jackhammered in her ribs. "Fine." She had no room to turn and look at him. She just had to trust that he wouldn't let her plummet to her death. Since he could fly, he was the only logical backup. Still, she wished it was Frank at her back, or Nico, or Piper, or Leo, or even, well, okay, maybe not Coach Hedge, but still, Hazel couldn't get a read on Jason Grace. Ever since she arrived at Camp Jupiter, she'd heard stories about him. The campers spoke with reverence about the son of Jupiter, who'd risen from the lonely ranks of the 5th cohort to become praetor, led them to victory in the Battle of Mount Tam, then disappeared. Even now, after all the events of the past couple weeks, Jason seemed more like a legend than a person. She had a hard time warming up to him, with those icy blue eyes and that careful reserve, like he was calculating every word before he said it. Also, she couldn't forget how he had been ready to write off her brother Nico when they'd learned that he was a captive in Rome. Jason had thought Nico was bait for a trap. He'd been right. And maybe, now that Nico was safe, Hazel could see why Jason's caution was a good idea. Still, she didn't quite know what to think of the guy. What if they got themselves in trouble at the top of the cliff, and Jason decided that saving Hazel wasn't in the best interest of the quest? Hazel glanced up. She couldn't see the thief from here, but she sensed he was waiting. Hazel was confident she could produce enough gems and gold to impress even the greediest of robbers. She wondered if the treasure she summoned would still bring bad luck. She'd never been sure whether that curse had been broken when she died the first time. This seemed like a good opportunity to find out. Anybody who robbed innocent demigods with a giant turtle deserved a few nasty curses. Gale the weasel jumped off her shoulder and scampered ahead. She glanced back and barked eagerly. "Going as fast as I can," Hazel muttered. She couldn't shake the feeling that the weasel was anxious to watch her fail. There's control in the mist," Jason said. "Have you had any luck?" "No," Hazel admitted. She didn't like to think about her failures. The seagull she could not turn into a dragon, Coach Hedge's baseball bat stubbornly refusing to turn into a hot dog. She just couldn't make herself believe any of it was possible. "You'll get it," Jason said. His tone surprised her. It wasn't a throwaway comment just to be nice. He sounded truly convinced. She kept climbing, but she imagined him watching her with those piercing blue eyes, his jaw set with confidence. "How can you be so sure?" she asked. "Just am. I got a good instinct for what people could do. Demigods, anyway. Hecate wouldn't have picked you if she didn't believe you had power." Maybe that should have made Hazel feel better. It didn't. She had a good instinct for people, too. She understood what motivated most of her friends, even her brother Nico, who was not easy to read. But Jason? She didn't have a clue. Everybody said he was a natural leader. She believed it. Here he was, making her feel like a valued member of the team, telling her she was capable of anything. But what was Jason capable of? She couldn't talk any more about her doubts. Frank was in awe of the guy. Piper, of course, head over heels. Leo was his best friend. Even Nico seemed to follow his lead without question. But Hazel couldn't forget that Jason had been Hera's first move in the war against the giants. The Queen of Olympus had dropped Jason into Camp Half-Blood, which had started this entire chain of events to stop Gaia. Why Jason first? Something told Hazel that he was the linchpin. Jason would be the final play, too. To storm or fire the world must fall. That's what the prophecy said. As much as Hazel feared fire, she feared storms more. And Jason Grace could cause some pretty huge storms. Hazel glanced up and saw the rim of the cliff only a few yards above her. She reached the top, breathless and sweaty. A long, sloping valley marched inland, dotted with scraggly olive trees and limestone boulders. There was no signs of civilization.